It's all about priorities.
What do you want to accomplish in the next year?
What is it that I need to move forward?
This is not feasible.
They all have one thing in common. They take breaks. Make that first step towards change.
It's super coherent.
It's about the conscious effort and commitment.
I want to do something that brings me joy.
If you want your day to be successful,
Daniela Ullmann, so happy to have you here.
thank you so much, Gonzalo, for inviting me to join this amazing podcast.
Thank you. How's it going today? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good, very energized,
Okay.
joyful, happy
As
to...
usual.
As usual, most of the time.
That's good. So maybe a short introduction of my side. Normally, to this show, we will bring people from BCs or startups, mainly also business related. In your case, it's a bit different, right? Because you're not part of a startup, you're not part of a BC. So the first question for you to start would be, why should I listen to Daniela if I'm right now listening to this? Why should I listen to Daniela?
Yes, that's a very good question. Well, if it's not the voice you're attracted to, you want to listen to. Let me ask you a question. Have you been feeling stressed and overwhelmed for a longer period of time? Are you lacking energy? Are you lacking focus? Do you just feel like you're not operating as your best self? Then I think you will get really good insights out of this conversation that we're going to have today, because we are going to talk deeper about health, well-being, why this matters, and obviously I want to share more later, but why or how we can level up and really reach our highest potential, so we can get up every day and reach our goals and strive towards them, and basically really strive instead of survive.
Okay, well, that's a pretty convenient, I guess, for the audience statement. So I think that the best way sometimes to put this to as an example would be, how do you start your day today? Yes.
So I have a pretty consistent routine when it comes to starting my days in the morning, because I believe that the way you start your day really unfolds or starts that domino that will fall on how the day will unfold. What I mean by that is that when we start our days feeling rushed, like typically we snooze, we get up far too late, we rush around, and we have not even breakfast, we get a coffee on the go, and then we rush out of the office, or out of the door to the office. And so if you start your way a different way, by taking better care of yourself, energizing your body, nourishing your mind and your soul, to really prepare yourself in a way that sets you up for a successful day, there's a totally different way to start your day. And going back to your question, I took time to move my body this morning, because I use that to rehearse for important appointments like this one today. I did cold therapy, which is a new hobby that I discovered 7 months ago, which will help my brain to get kicked off on fire. It's so amazing. I'm happy to share more about that later. And then I eat healthy foods. I nourish my stomach, my body, with healthy, balanced meal. And then I take time to plan my day, which is also something so important, because often we start our days looking into emails. It's most of the time it's what people do. Yep. We open up our computer and we look at our emails. Sometimes not even the agenda, and we start rolling and getting into action mode and hustle mode without getting the clarity. What is it that I need to focus on today? What are my three primary projects? Who needs my attention most? Where do I need to be at my best self? Like, all these reflection questions that most people don't do are super helpful. So today I'm like rolled out of bed. And let me say it that way. When I start my days, I don't always feel that way. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I have to do this and that. So I need to train. So I have been training my brain for years now to function the way it does. So it is basically you condition yourself in a way.
You know what I think now that you were talking about this? I was thinking that maybe some people that is listening to us, they will probably be thinking, Daniela does that because she has no boss, or probably she's out of a big corporation, right? But someone looking at you from a corporate world or any other world that cannot, like, let's say, decide as you can in their routine, they would be like, yeah, but I have to be in the office or in the shop or in whatever you name it at 7 a.m. And I already have my plan. But when I go and try to execute it, I have my boss or the boss of my boss or whoever or my peers that are pressuring me to do it differently, and I have to bend and do it differently. So what would you say to those people who are not like you, like let's say a freelancer who doesn't have that liberty of freedom or of movement?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question, Gonzalo, because I spent the past 22 years of my career in a corporate world. So basically being employed, right?
You work the same way.
And I work the same way. Yeah. Over the past years, I started to really develop those routines and habits. And I talk about this all the time. I speak a lot for companies and employees and managers. Yes, you do. You are kind of being controlled in a way because you're part of a structure and a system, and that's good because we need that. But you still have flexibility and you still have the power to make decisions. So you gave me an example. You said, yeah, I have to be somewhere at a certain time, right? 7, 8, 9, that may be. Well, if I know that I have an appointment and need to start my day a certain way, then how about I do not engage in social media in the morning, because that's what most people do. It's actually the worst way to wake up is to, and even worse than that is people, no judgment, but people who like, they wake up and they use their laptop as a first thing, right? You engage in the outside world, whereas the morning is the time where that's the only time really during the day where you have the time to take care of yourself and your own needs before we start reacting to the outside world. And we do react to an email. We do react to a WhatsApp message. We do react to a post that we see in our newsfeed. It's most of the time reactive, right? But when you react to people the entire time, like when do you really care about or think about what is it that I need to move forward? So what do I want to say by that? Well, yes, we have certain times when we start the day, but then how about you take a little time for yourself in the morning or during your lunch break to check in with yourself and find that time to do something for your own, for your mind, right? Because just because we're in a system or part of a company doesn't mean we don't have the time. It's all about priorities. And sadly, and that's something I've witnessed over the past couple of years, people who have like 2 or 3 appointments in the calendar, like, meetings at the same time, I always tell them, yes, there are certain meetings you cannot postpone, you have to be part of, but there's at least one meeting you can say no to. Or you can say, listen, I'd love to have that meeting, but can we do it at a later time? Can we do it next week? Because right now I'm prioritizing in a different way. And COVID, the pandemic, has basically changed our entire meeting culture. We now have double or triple this amounts of meetings or the quantity of meetings we did have prior to COVID. But then what happens with the work that still needs to get done? And I hear it all the time. There's so many people who are wasting time in meetings. They have no clue why they're in the meeting. They don't have nothing to say in the meeting. And that's just a waste of time. Like it starts with, and tell me when we're going into the wrong direction, but it starts by setting intentions. Okay, why is that meeting important? What do we want to achieve in that meeting? Who really needs to be in that meeting, right? If I don't see a value in being in that meeting, then why am I in that meeting? And the challenge is that we don't take the time to reflect, to think about that.
Okay, you talked about a lot of things in a very short amount of time.
Yes.
But it's the same, like the area or the field is very similar. That is your priorities and your time, which I think is also key, right? Okay, so if I'm if I don't know anything about this, I haven't heard about this, and it's weird, but still, what would you recommend to someone that says, okay, I've listened to Daniela, I really want to prioritize better because I feel the stress all the time. I'm chasing the day all day. What would you say, is there any kind of practice that you would say that's the best to prioritize your goals and your objectives? How would you put that into practice?
Yes, there are many different practices you can use or incorporate. I guess I would start maybe from the beginning and ask yourself first, why is this important to you? Because many times people just do something because we hear it somewhere, and yeah, we may have pain, but the question is always to accept where you're at in that moment. So why is getting more energy important to you? Why do you want to feel more balanced? So to getting clarity on your bigger goal, I think that's really important, because then reflecting helps us to make that first step towards change. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, what I was thinking is that ultimately everyone wants to be happier, right? So if you talk to someone, he would be like, I want to be happy. And then, okay, what's happy to you? And he or she would be like, well, I want to have more time for myself and my friends and my couple or whoever, my kids, my dog, my video games, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
They want to have more time for themselves, and they will probably want to feel less stress. I mean, the needs seems common to everyone, right?
Right.
But how would you put in practice something? For example, I journal, right? So I try to journal at least minimum once a week. And then when you do it for several years, I've been doing this for the last, 6 years, 7 years. And you reflect on what you do in a year, what do you want to accomplish in the next year, and you do an update weekly. That works for me. But for example, for me, meditation didn't work. I need to do sports in the morning before coming to the office. That works for me. But is there something that anyone can do to help them prioritize and have more energy?
Yeah. I guess you've just shared a really good example. I guess that the easiest question to ask yourself is, what comes most natural to you? Right? Is it the exercise? I mean, I strongly believe that in a holistic approach. So I would do everything that you said I would always do. But that's maybe it may sound intimidating for someone who doesn't do anything. But I think that moving your body, staying active is one of the crucial parts, because movement creates motion, creates emotion. That means when you move your body, not only will you feel more energized, you are become more resistant to stress. You can start thinking about things that may be in your head that you're worrying about, and you start getting a different perspective. You're outside in nature most of the time. So movement is always a great way. And I say movement and not exercise, because many people get overwhelmed by exercise. Moving could be walking, doing a walking meeting. Instead of sitting, right? If there's no presentation that needs to be shared, how about doing a walking meeting?
This could be a good tip that everyone can implement.
Walk
easier.
and talk, I say, right?
Walk and talk, yeah.
So then apart from movement, it really depends on what your goal is. Like I, as an example, was struggling a lot in the past by feeling restless. So I found it hard to quiet my mind and to sit still and to relax. So to me, a mindfulness practice really helped. Now, I did start with meditation about 5 years ago, slow, because that's something I wanted to learn. You can also engage in a different practice like yoga. And it is not only, I know there's many women who participate in yoga, but it really is about centering yourself and finding, and it may sound too advanced, but trying to get out of your head into your body. Like anything that helps you to get out of your head into your body is helping you. Because what the problem that we all have is there's constant chatter in our head. We have over 70, 80,000 thoughts a day.
It's
and
exhausting.
Exactly. And you need to find a way to release that. So you use journaling, which is, I think it's an amazing practice. I also journal every day.
Every day.
Not in order so much to reflect, but really just to get rid of my thoughts. Right? Because if I write it down, it's out of my head. That's a great way also to end your day. If you have something you're worried about, like you didn't get everything done on your to-do list, or you need to prepare for something that week that you haven't managed to do, get it out of your head and write it on a piece of paper.
Okay. You said something super interesting, that is get rid of your thoughts, which is probably one of the most difficult things in the world. So what we can do, if you agree, is we could then do a journey. What would be a journey? Because sometimes I've seen this meme of, I don't know if you probably saw, like, okay, so I have to drink 7 liters of water.
Yes.
I have to eat 20 bananas. I have to eat 5 pineapples. I have to do 120 push-ups. I have to take care of my kids. I have to be great at work for 12 hours. I have to meditate 1. I have to do, you know what I mean? All these things at the same time in one day. So people tend to think, wait, this is not feasible,
Right.
and it makes no sense. I'm
Right.
not going to do it. My conditions are different from the rest. I'm not going to do it. So let's try to think, and you will help me here, a feasible journey for, let's call it a regular corporate person that works a 9 to 5 job, let's say 9 to 6, probably, 8:30 to 6:30, probably. Well, let's see, roughly, right?
Right.
What would be the day you said, wake up, don't use social media, and move?
Right.
That's what we have at the beginning of the day. Then we go to work straight. Do we?
Technically, there's breakfast for those
Okay.
who would like to eat.
So you will move and everything before breakfast.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You would definitely move before breakfast, of course, and you would also energize your digestive system by drinking a warm glass of water with lemon, and that you do ideally right after waking up, before you even have coffee. There's a lot of studies that say that coffee first thing in the morning is not great for your system. So I know many people rely on that cup of coffee and then still have the afternoon fatigue. But have a glass of warm water and lemon, because the lemon helps to flush out the toxins that were accumulated overnight. You know, when the body is repairing and having other processes running, store of processes. Then you basically just get yourself some fluid in, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
and the lemon is for the digestion,
Okay.
basically, right? Then you do your movement, whatever that means to you, right? Walk,
Sure.
run, and you can do, honestly, tailor it to your own lifestyle, your own needs. It can be half an hour, it can be 10 minutes, it can be 15 minutes, wherever you want to have time for. It really does not matter. I personally believe, and we can talk about that later, it's about more consistency rather than the amount or the duration.
time. 10 minutes minimum, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you can, so after you've done that, you get dressed and everything, you have breakfast.
Okay.
And by that, I mean like sitting down and having breakfast. Like not on the go, not on the fly. If you have the time, have it in the morning or in the office, but prepare it.
You haven't checked social media or anything yet? You haven't
No.
touched your phone?
No.
Okay, that's hard. Okay.
Well, you can try that for yourself within the first hour after waking up. Maybe no phone, right? And it's a process, by the way. It's not something you have to start implementing from 0 to 100, right?
Yep.
It's just take bits and pieces, and then really sit down, look at your calendar for today, look at what needs to happen. You could even use your work calendar or your personal calendar. Do I have appointments? Do I have to get my kids from kindergarten? Do I have any arrangements, any errands that need to be running? Just so I get the clarity of what happens today, right? Because as I said, oftentimes we run into the day, we forget about certain things, and then it just pops up in the afternoon and we're totally unprepared. So really having that clarity. And at work, you do the same thing with your calendar. Take a couple minutes to settle at work, to get your glass of water, to make your tea, to get your jar right in front of you. You do not forget to drink, because oftentimes you just forget to drink.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the person who's waking up, we assume early, then takes the water, goes to do some movement, whatever that represents to anyone, and then breakfast. Okay, now we head into work, right? Let's say, okay, in here, do you want to mention anything specific about the work routine, or because I think it could be quite broad, but would you mention anything specific like, I don't know, good practice, hygiene of your focus? I know you do timings and you put yourself like, do not disturb timings. Would you recommend any practice during that time of work before lunch?
I really do. I think our work calendar, in most cases, it only includes meetings, and that's it. Meetings and calls. But we should just as well put personal things on the calendar. Everything should be on that calendar, and that includes deep dive breaks. That includes time breaks for or time for breaks. Like setting time in your agenda where you take a conscious break is really important. And I know many people will think, well, I do that already, but I'm not doing it. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
At least you put it consciously on your calendar. It's a step-by-step process, right? And then maybe once out of 5 times you think about doing it, but then you will remember the first time you did it, and you may do it again, the week after that. And so put time in your calendar when you can find time to check in and recharge. Because especially on those high on those days where you run from meeting marathon, that's what they say, right? Where you run from one call into the next. We use so much energy gets depleted by not having time in between those meetings, those tasks. Because we don't take the time to reflect or to breathe.
Yeah.
It could just be as simple as taking a deep breath, opening up the window, getting another glass of water, standing up, stretching, going to the restroom. I talk so many times to people, I've not been on the toilet all day long. Like, what? Like, seriously? Like, every person has needs. Isn't that so interesting that we all have certain needs, right? We always need to be fed. We need to be safe. We need to make sure that we find, and alleviate our, toilet and stuff. But we oftentimes just completely forget about those things.
Yeah.
Because all it counts, supposedly, is getting work done. So going back to your question, schedule time for some breaks to recharge. And that could be time to check in with yourself, How am I doing? What do I need right now? Before we grab the next coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Before we grab the chocolate. That's it. Because I know in the office it's tempting because there's always something that people bring, and so it's hard to say no. But before we do that, it's a daily check-in with yourself. And you can make it really easy. You can set an alarm on your phone, right? That reminds you. You can use your smartwatch to remind you. You can put a schedule, like a reminder on your calendar, so you get the awareness.
Yeah. We did in Wayra, what we did is that we established as a rule that we cannot start a meeting sharp. So we have to, by default in Outlook, start 5 minutes late.
Right.
So instead of 9, we will have the meeting at 9:05.
Correct.
And all that kind of thing. So 25-minute meeting instead of 30-minute meeting. We give 5 minutes.
That is fantastic. That is something you should always do, like to set your default to 25 or 50, 55 minutes. So you have that extra time. And again, start every meeting.
Yeah.
I know already some companies are doing that. They actually start with a minute of silence, or they really
a minute of silence in the call.
Yeah,
everyone.
to get people to get grounded. Oftentimes people rush into a meeting and you get started and you're not fully present.
Okay, I'm the one who's storming the meeting. I'm the one who's like, let's go to it.
Yeah. And that's okay. I'm just saying, like, sometimes people don't have the time to breathe.
Okay.
Because they rush from one, and that when they come in, like, I'm sorry, I'm 5 minutes late because I just finished the other meeting. So just take a minute to breathe, to all get grounded and centered in that meeting room, whether it's virtual or live.
Okay.
Our meetings can be much more effective if we take that time.
Yeah.
It could also be to set intentions. What is the intention of the meeting? What is the goal? So often we start talking and some people are not even clear what is the objective of the meeting. And then we just talk and talk and talk. And it depends on the type of meeting.
Yeah.
And then you feel like, okay, was it like a waste of time or was it worthy of my time? So again, just finding the time to reflect. And going back to your question, what I also highly suggest is take time for a lunch break. Make lunch.
Yeah.
Not at your desk.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else, to the kitchen. Go, I don't know, grab a meal go somewhere to buy something. But take time away from your desk, from your devices.
Would you say 1 hour or not that much? Or even
It
less?
could be less. It could be 30 minutes.
Okay.
I think as long as you just take the conscious time to make the effort to eat, to not eat at your desk.
Yeah.
And then also afterwards,
Hygiene is just like pure, like cleaning stuff. Like don't eat where you work.
Yeah, and then also we're not mindful. Like you see when we, and I know that some of these topics are really deep if you're not really following those or haven't really thought about this. But oftentimes we rush when we eat, right? So we chew very little, and then the food basically, right? So you eat in 10 minutes, you basically swallow the big pieces, then it sits in your stomach, you feel tired, it's kind of feels a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. If you took the proper time to eat slow, you Spanish know how to eat mindful. You eat forever, and then you drink your wine, like meaning fully embracing the food that I'm eating, then you can taste it differently. Yeah. Right? It's kind of, then does it taste good? Does it not taste good? Am I satisfied or not? I mean, these types of questions, they will come along the way at some point, right? But what I'm trying to say, to get back to the point, is take time for a break.
Okay.
And ideally go for a walk afterwards if you can, to like after lunch, or in the lunch break, just to get your system going again. Like just 5 minutes, can be 5 minutes around the block. Okay, and at that time you start reflecting. Okay, so what is important for this afternoon? What do I need to work on?
Okay. So you add a lot of reflection in the day, during the day, like after
Yes.
the day, I
Yes.
guess post of the day. Okay. We have this person who's doing everything so far, is taking the time to eat. And now we go for the afternoon. So the afternoon, I guess, it would be similar, but I think you even told me, and I've heard it somewhere else as well, you're more productive in the morning. I don't know if it's a common thing, and then you're normally less productive in the afternoon, so you better take your harder task in the morning. And is that true,
that's
right?
a very good. I'm so happy you touched on that topic. One of my favorite topics to talk about. Exactly. You see, one of the things I totally think that the meeting culture could change completely if we moved the morning meetings, especially the Monday morning call, team call, to later in the day. Because most people, if we follow our cardiac rhythm, we're most productive the first 4 hours after waking up.
Okay.
So that's our peak time for most people. I know some people have that peak in the afternoon again or in the evening. So I always ask myself, like, why would I sit in meetings the first hours in the morning?
Yeah.
Because usually that's that time that we need to move the important project, to work on the presentation, to get the strategic work done. So that is stuff that needs to be done, should be done in the morning. And there's this phrase called "eat the frog." I don't personally use that that phrase. Like, it's not my phrase, but it's true. Focus on the most important stuff where you need a sharp brain. It's all about your focus, right? When am I most focused and productive and creative? It's the morning. Because with every decision we make, our energy starts getting depleted. Then we ideally fill it up at lunch.
Okay.
Right? That's the idea. Is why are we taking a break? To fill up our batteries. That's the whole idea. So we can go through an afternoon and still feel productive in a different way, right? It's about recharging. That's the whole point.
Okay.
We all know those days when we don't take breaks, then we just kind of going along and we just feel like, okay, it was not bad, but I wasn't feeling my best self. I didn't feel like I made a contribution to that meeting, or I didn't feel so good within myself. It's like if you start to think about it afterwards, you know when you're feeling amazing, right?
Yes.
You know that when you're feeling really good and you feel like you're making contribution, you're moving things forward, you're getting things done, you're just feeling good. So wouldn't you want that feeling to last as long as possible, or to get it as long as possible, as often as possible?
Totally. Yeah.
So that's the thing we can achieve if we take those conscious breaks in between.
Okay.
And by the way, high achievers, people who are super successful, whether they're athletes, whether they're CEOs, business people across all industries, have done studies, high performance studies. One of my mentors, Brendon Bouchard, he's a high performance coach in the US. And they all have one thing in common. They take breaks. Between 45 and 60 minutes, or after 45 to 60 minutes, they take a conscious break. Because they know that their brain will operate better.
How long?
Well, just a few minutes.
Okay.
Just a few minutes.
2-3 minutes break.
Yeah.
It's
it's that transition that I said before,
Yeah.
Between one task and another, instead of jumping from, as an example, you set 30 minutes to work on your emails,
Yep.
right? So you do nothing else, just emails, ideally.
Yeah.
I know there's about distraction. It's a different story.
Yeah, because then an email could lead you to a task that could make you or force you to leave the email if you want to complete that email. You know what I mean? It's like...
That's okay.
Okay.
There's certain hacks you can change if you get distracted, if you're talking about distraction, you can have it goes a bit into hacks to stay focused. You can put your Outlook in offline mode, so no new emails come in at least, so you don't get distracted by new things coming in.
That's interesting.
Notifications, by the way, turning those off is great for Slack or for Teams. And so again, back to your question, you focus on that one task at hand, whatever it is that you need to do that time. And then when you end that task, before you jump into the next task, in the next meeting, you take that little time to stretch, to drink, like that little transition time.
Okay. So this person is going through the day. He's trying to do all these kind of things. And then let's say we arrive to the end of the work journey. That could be whatever the time it is, right? Let's say, I don't know, 4, and you have to go to pick up your kids. 5 because you start early and then you do sport in the afternoon. 6 because you stay, or 7 because you stay a bit longer. Even 8. I don't know. But you end your journey, right? You're done. You get out of work.
Right.
What do you do?
I think it would be very beneficial to have a ritual that helps you to end your workday. And that is especially important when you work from home a lot, because when you're on an office environment, you close the door and then you're done, right? I leave my office and I'm offline, basically. Not everyone, but most of the time, right? It's kind of that kind of shift. When your office is at home, it's difficult.
Yep.
And most times you just end up working later if we don't have any plans or nothing scheduled. So what I find very beneficial, and again, it goes back to the same thing, either you move your body, I often end my day with a walk, or you make an appointment with someone. I personally think it's so important to engage also in things that bring you joy after the end of the day, and the work day. That may be your gym class, or maybe playing paddle or tennis with friends. It may be just to meet up with a friend for dinner, or even a work-related appointment, like a networking event. But it's something that kind of breaks the day to kind of ends, right? That puts a break in between work and social life, so to speak. Okay. And I know it's about the conscious effort and commitment, but I know how it feels when you don't do that. You just end up working.
Yes.
Unless, by the way, right? If you have a family, if you have a partner, then in you have, it's actually an advantage in that case, because you can stay. Which is on the other side for people who are in that situation. They say, well, they often feel I'm not enough because I have to start at a certain time. If you work part-time, right, I cannot work longer because my children need me and my spouse needs me, and then I feel like I'm not doing enough in any of my roles. So that's a whole different story, right? They struggle a lot with mental load, right? And the feeling of not being enough, not doing enough. But generally, I would definitely say end your day with something positive, something that stimulates your mind in a positive way.
Okay, so it could be also like you end in the office, you finish your work, and you walk home. Is that and then you meet someone. You want to include, like, you think the social interactions are key as well, or
yes, I think so. Yeah.
Beyond work.
It's very important.
Yeah.
I think and that's why when we think about how does our day start in the morning, right? Let's go back to the morning. If we know we have something cool and fun to look forward to in the evening, it helps us completely change our perspective for the day. If I know that I may have a challenging day coming ahead or coming up, but I know I have that really cool dinner with a friend or buddy I haven't seen in 3 months, or I have that appointment, or I can go to that favorite gym class, or I'm going to go to see a movie. Right? It gives you an outlook of something cool that's going to happen at the end of the day.
But then there is this trend that says your work must be the thing you love. Therefore, you love to do your work, and that should be enough. You know that there's this trend: do whatever you love, blah, 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 which is not, by the way, true for a high percentage of the population. So, okay, so you're basically saying probably you wouldn't like the job that you're doing. Is that true, or did I get it wrong?
You got it wrong.
Okay, please explain more. Because like I want to do something that brings me joy. So it's like work is not bringing me joy at all. It doesn't need to. Of course.
And that's so interesting. Of course, that's a whole different story. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it's even harder, right? Yeah. So your work, I mean, I love my job. I've always loved the jobs I was doing, right? All my roles and responsibilities. But it goes back to health is holistic. Yep. So health is not just having a good job or feeling happy in your job. It also, when do we strive the most? We need connection. We need people around us, right? Just imagine you would be doing this on your own all day long, right? You'd feel sad and maybe isolated. So, and life is all about balance. Health is all about balance. So work is, for most people, has a primary part in our life, and that's really important. But you also need joy in your life. In order to feel fully happy and alive, you need meaningful connections, deep relationships, right? You want to find time for the things that make you happy. Mm-hmm. And work cannot give you all of that all the time, right? That's a very good question. No, just thinking about it, like, there are different areas in life. It's the same with your finances and your growth. Mm. You know, there's your health. There are your relationships. There's your spirituality. There's purpose in life and meaning. There's so many different areas in life, and work is a big part. We all want to feel fulfilled in what we do. Yep. And helping you stay healthy especially emotionally and mentally healthy, will drive and fuel that love for your job. But again, just as much as you like your job, just imagine a life without your friends, or a life without your most favorite hobbies, or a life without traveling, or a life without your family.
Yeah.
But all these things have meaning in your life. And if you don't know, if you're listening, like, what are they talking about? What gives you meaning in life? You know, it's, again, a deep question. But what makes you happy the most? Or what gives you the most energy? What gives you energy? What are the top 5 things, or even 10 things, that give you the most energy? If you were going to end your life in 6 months, what is it that you would love to do?
Yeah, it's a classic.
In the 6 months.
Yeah, I like it. But you also said something that gives you purpose.
Right.
And I've seen many people struggling a lot with this particular question. So the others, and when you say 5 things that gives you energy, that's clear and you can name them. And I would say most of the people could say this and this and that. It could be, I don't know, exercise, listening to music, having a beer with my friends, whatever, right? But they would probably be able to name them. Also, the things that make them happy is also because it would be super related to the things that gives you energy, right? But then you mentioned one that I don't know because I wanted to end the journey of these people that wake up, that did this.
Right.
So I don't know if we should tackle this question about purpose now. You know what? I will leave it for later, the purpose, okay? If you don't mind.
If I would want to share one more thing when it comes to ending your day. Because you've said
we're not done yet.
Okay.
That person is just going to do something fun.
Oh, right, okay.
And
or even something fun, or if you had a very stressful day, to get rid of the steam, right? That's why exercise again, or sports, or something active comes into play.
Twice a day.
No, not twice. You can do it either or.
Okay.
Right? Some people may not like in the morning, because again, everything I'm sharing here, you just understand that you can tailor it to your own lifestyle and your own living situation. Mm-hmm. Some people might say, honestly, I can't do it in the morning. I'm more a lunch person. Or right? Others say I do it in the evenings. Personally, from my personal experience, I would always do the mornings. I used to work out in the evenings all the time. Now all of that stuff gets done in the morning because I just wake up a totally different way. I mean, it's like, what?
You know that this relates a lot. And also it depends on where you are. Because when I was in Spain, it's a bit more difficult to do it in the morning because everything tends to get late in the afternoon, right? You know, when you're going to go for dinner, it's even hard to start dinner at 8:30. Here in Munich, I have dinner at 6 p.m. and I'm super happy with my dinner at 6, by the way. In Spain, it's difficult to have dinner before 8:30. Right. Some people even have dinner at 10 p.m. So if you have dinner at 10 p.m., you end up at 11 and you arrive home at 12, and you wake up at 6 a.m. or before, like you can do here, then you take 6 hours of sleep, you're done. That's not going to be sustainable. So it relates before. I mean, I said that this to put as an example my experience, right? So in Spain, I was a, let's say, night person. I did the sports also at night, not at night, but in the evening. Right. In here, the other way around. I wouldn't be able to do sports later than 5. So I do sports in the morning. Right. But the 6 a.m. in here, especially now from March onwards, 6 a.m. is like 8 or 9 a.m. in Spain, you know? And even we have the same time, it's the sun is completely different, the light is completely different. Yeah. That impact us a lot, right? So, excuse me, I didn't want to talk about my stuff, but I think it was as an example. I'm happy you shared that, It's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. So you could be both person. That's what I meant. Right. You could be an evening person and suddenly you become a morning person for whatever reason. And that's okay as long as you put some, let's say, movement in your day and everything, right? So then will you go for dinner already? Yes, right? Or do you include that in the joy? That could be part of the joy, I guess. Yeah, it could be part of the joy. When you could, if you meet up with people, you can make it an experience and have a nice meal. You can also just eat something nice at home, cook. Yeah. I find, and I know a lot of people struggle to incorporate that into their, especially weekly routines, is to cook. But cooking can be very relaxing. And it helps to get rid of the thoughts in your head, or at least to end your day in a positive way, because it brings us into the present moment. Again, it helps us to you can have a glass of wine and put some nice music on,
or with your partner. You can make it a date night, like and cook together. It's really just the act of preparing your own meal instead of getting a pizza out of the freezer, right? And it's much healthier anyways.
Yeah, I agree. And then you head to bed immediately after. How do you handle that? Do you have dinner and then you do something else and then you go for bed already? Like, what do we do there?
There's a cool practice I always refer to. It's called the 3-to-1 method. And it basically says, just to give you an idea on how the ideal evening, I know that's something means something different for everyone, looks like from a health perspective, right? To help you fall asleep fast and happy. And then again, wake up the next morning feeling refreshed and recharged. Is you have dinner 3 hours before you go to bed.
Okay.
Ideally. And that is simply because your body can then digest your food before you go into bed.
Okay.
And that's important because our body needs the time when we sleep to repair, to restore, to get rid of all the old cells. So there's a lot of work going on in our brain, especially in our entire system, right? So then you stop working 2 hours before you go to bed, meaning like work, and 1 hour before bed, no devices.
Okay.
No devices. So how does an evening look like for me? Like I have one day during the week where I go to yoga class, and that really helps me to wind down at night. It's a beautiful way, especially if the day has not gone your way, and you're just like a little agitated, or I don't know, just a little upset, or just not in such a good mood. I feel it's really important to relax. It's in the mindfulness technique to me.
So is any particular yoga, or because there are yoga that are really active in movement, or I don't remember the different kinds, but there's what is it named? The Ashtanga?
Ashtanga.
No. Ashtanga yoga.
Oh gosh, that's a very hard. That's a very. I don't practice Ashtanga.
If you compare to Kundalini, that is like different.
Just breath
you
work.
have to do. Okay.
Yeah, there's different types of yoga. Honestly, there's so many studios out there. Whenever I travel, I do that also when I travel. I always find a yoga studio where I can practice yoga, because it's just now part of my routine, and it helps me to get grounded and just to feel more relaxed. Apart from doing yoga, you can also, again, the food. Afterwards, after I've done that, I get ready for the next day, because that's another hack I would love to share with this audience here. If you're listening, pay close attention. The way if you want your day to be successful the next day, if you want to feel great, if you want to just end the day feeling you're accomplished and you're happy, you need to plan your day ahead of time. So if you, as an example, decide to work out the next morning, put your exercise clothes out there the night before.
Yeah, I do that because otherwise...
Exactly. Because otherwise what happens? You forget. You can't be bothered.
You have to see the process, the maximum. Even leave your door open or something.
Yes, you lose a lot of time in the morning by deciding what am I going to wear, what am I going to do. So have that ready. And the same goes even for your clothes. Like I prepare as much as I can the night before. I have my bag ready, my backpack, where my laptop is in and everything, my charger when I go to the office. I have my clothes that I'm going to wear. I decide what I'm going to wear the night before because frankly, it takes up so much energy the next day. You won't believe it. It kind of doesn't make sense because we're supposedly most productive and most decisive in the morning, but for some reason that doesn't work. So I decide in the morning before what I'm going to wear. So everything I can do in order to gain more time in the morning to not have to rush out of the house, I do. It also includes journaling, reflecting on the day.
That's when you do the journaling at the end of the day.
And I do that when I'm in bed. So I do that. I do a practice called Blessings. It's from a book called Run the Burn, The Secret.
Okay.
The Magic is the book, but The Secret is a movie. And basically, I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. I know that's long. I would say you can start with 3 things.
Okay.
3 things you're grateful for. Just write down, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And when you start this practice, and maybe let's go back a phrase. Why would we do that? Really, it helps our brain to focus more on the good things in life, especially on those days where it did not go your way, where you were upset and annoyed and frustrated and stressed. Especially on those days, finding good things in that day really, really helps you to feel a little better. There's so many studies out there on gratitude. I mean, there's so many quotes out there
Yeah.
of gratitude, right?
Yeah. I've also
And for
heard
me, it had the big impact on my personal journey, on my personal growth over the past years. So I'm training my brain to really focus on the good things. And even if things did not go my way, I always find things to be grateful for now. It
Yeah.
could be the tiniest little thing. It could be the fact, it's so simple, that thank you, Gonzalo, for bringing water here.
Yeah.
I could just be super thirsty. It's so basic.
Yeah.
But that's what we need to go back to the basics. Focus on. I'm not saying that we should walk around with rosé-colored glasses and always being happy, right? It's just about changing your perspective. And when you start practicing that on a more frequent basis, it does shift the way you feel and think in a positive way. So I do that practice. I also sometimes write down things I've learned that day. Again, especially when it didn't go your way. Just, hey, what did I learn today? Okay, I learned that 10 minutes leaving the house 10 minutes earlier makes me feel less stressed. It's like these little things. It's about, listen, you guys, and Gonzalo, 95% of everything that we do every day is based on subconscious behavior, right? On unconscious behavior. In order to change any behavior, you have to make it conscious. And how do you do that? By starting to listen to your thoughts. And journaling is a great way to listen and pay attention and write those thoughts down. You cannot change. When you say you're doing a trip this weekend, right? You have a car and you're going to Lago di Garda in Italy. What do you do if you've never gone? You use your navigation system and you type in Lago di Garda, right? But your system, Google Maps, needs to know where you're at before you can actually go. So
that's a very good metaphor, yeah.
So by going back to the original point, I cannot change anything if I don't know what it is that I want to change. What is the behavior I want to change? Is it the behavior, going back to the whole part of getting more energy, feeling just more focused and productive? What is it that I want to change? Is it that I spend too much time browsing through social media? Is it that I run around stressed the entire time and I don't take breaks? Is it because of that I feel more short-tempered with my staff? I find it hard to make decisions, maybe more women's thing, I don't know. I'm just, feeling tired the entire time. What is it that I want to change? And that's why journaling helps.
I like the metaphor of the Google Maps a lot. Like, you know where you go, but you need to know where you are now, because otherwise you can get lost in the travel. That's a very good one. I like it. Yeah. And also the fact of being thankful that you were saying before, I think is a very healthy thing. I try to do it naturally when I feel off for some reason. I try to think just the fact that even being here, being able to talk to you now, I don't know, use my whole brain capacities in my body is just a gift, right? So it's just, I should be thankful already. Okay.
Can I ask one
Of
point
course.
on the journaling practice for
Yes.
those who are not practicing it? If you find it hard to think about things, there are quite a few journals out there you can buy now that give you the prompts.
Yeah.
So there's the 6-minute journal that is widely used by so many people. There's another one in German, it's called Ein guter Plan, a good plan.
Yep.
Then I use an app called Growth Day. It's a personal development portal. That's Brendon Bouchard that I mentioned before is the founder. And it's basically the same thing, but digitally. You get prompts, right? You get prompts in the morning, in the evening, whenever you do the practice, that help you to reflect.
Also, do you want to give some advice now? Now we're talking about this, about apps, books. You already say some agendas. You already say at least one book. Do you want to say more books? Just in case?
It depends on the types of questions. There's so much I can recommend when it comes to changing habits. We haven't really talked about that in detail, but
Not yet.
there's a really cool book I can recommend. It's called The 1% Method, James Clear.
James Clear, no, is the guy from Atomic Habits as well, right?
Sorry, that's who I meant. Yeah, Atomic
Yeah.
Habits. In German, it's called the 1% Method. Atomic Habits. Yeah, it's basically 1% every single day. Lead up to 365% in the long run. So it's about focusing on the tiny little, teeny tiny steps every day.
Yep.
That's a really good book. I highly recommend that. There is another
That's
book.
a classic in the corporate culture as well. Like
Yeah.
everyone talks about like atomic habits, and it's okay. I think the guy has very nice quotes, by the way. I follow the newsletter that he has. The quotes are very nice. I like it. I started to read Atomic Habits, but I don't know. I didn't connect with it at some point. Even I'm a habit guy. I don't know.
There are a few more other books on habits that I can suggest. I forgot I think The Power of Habit is another one. I mean, they all say the same thing, but it's just whether you feel related to it or not, right?
Yeah.
There's a really cool podcast that, I mean, I'm a super fan of Mel Robbins. She's a life coach, motivational speaker from the US. So she touches on all areas of life. I've learned a lot through her. I highly recommend her podcast. It's so funny, honestly. Like, she's very authentic and real.
Mel Robbins, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Is she related to Tony Robbins or something?
No.
Because
not at all.
In the same field. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, Tony Robbins, he's a classic in that field. There's also Mindshine, which is an app application. It helps you to practice healthy habits in the morning. It's basically like you get little prompts and then little exercises of 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the topic. Is it stress release? Is it just getting more energy, changing your focus? And really, it's all about reflection in the end.
Yeah. Which it's super coherent with what you were saying, because you were mentioning this reflection, and you try to put the tools and the methods to do it more often.
Do you think that sounds intimidating for someone to having like a lot of work to have to do, or?
I would say that we could have comments on the comment section is open, so you can comment. By the way, if they want to talk to you, how can they reach to you? Are you open to suggestions, questions?
Of course, I'm always open. So it depends on where. So first of all, if you post this on YouTube also, right? Mm-hmm. So then I can comment there. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can check out my website, www.danielaullmann.com. We can link to that where they can engage with me through Instagram or send me an email.
It would be in the description of the video. Yeah, we'll add it there.
And again, everything I say, I mean, you resonate or not, you resonate or you don't, right? Mm-hmm. It's also, some things may not resonate with you, and that's okay. Okay. You know, then maybe it's not something you want to touch on or tackle on or do right in that moment. Maybe it comes back to you later. So always focus on all these things that you resonate with most, right? You may not even like my voice. I don't know. Like, you know, it's like we're all attracted to different kinds of people. We all have different energy, you know. But obviously, I hope that some of what I said resonates with you and you find useful. There's so many more books.
It's fine. We can just even drop a list if you want later in the comment section below. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the day complete, right? You finish the day with the journaling and with preparing for the next morning. Right. And then you go to sleep, and that's it. And then you wake up and repeat it again. Right. That's it.
Ideally, yeah. You wake up and without snoozing.
Without snoozing. We didn't talk about this.
No, we did not.
Without snoozing. But you mean, how would be the most optimal way to wake up?
Oh my God! Now we talk about the morning again. Do you want to touch it?
No, we're going in the loop. Okay.
You have to keep that for another time.
Okay. I will keep it for another time. Then I have here some topics that I wanted to talk to you about. Also, I want to know your inputs from it. Mm-hmm. The thing is that we took almost 50 minutes with this part. I thought it was going to be shorter, but so we barely have space for the rest. That was going to be the core.
Okay, so I'm going to do like a short 1 minute answers.
It's fine. Whatever it is. It's better to have it clear, and then we do another podcast, another episode, another interview, another day.
Right.
It's fine.
Or cut it into 2 parts or something.
Yeah, volume 1. So I think that one of the key, let's say, concerns of the people that may be listening to this right now, would be stress. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think there are many different conceptions about stress, because there's also this wave that says that a little stress is also necessary because it helps you keep going, etc. Right. And there's this relation also between stress and addiction, that you need some stress because you'll also hit some dopamine things, it seems, and whatever. But first, how would you define stress?
You've said it very well. Stress can be positive or negative. Stress helps us to move things forward in life. Stress is part of life. It's just nothing we can completely get rid of. Stress is there to help us survive in this world, like about the fight or flight, the central nervous system, right, has a sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So stress is important. It's an important survival mechanism for the body. It also helps us to thrive and to move things forward, as I said. But there's two ways of stress, right? There's the positive stress and the negative stress, as you mentioned, or the eustress and eustress. I mean, I don't use those terms. I just think there's good stress and bad stress. And I guess my definition or my way of seeing it differently is like stress can be either just punctual, it comes up through intense periods of your life, or it comes up on a constant basis as in it's chronic. And when it becomes chronic, like all the time, then that's some area needs to pay more attention to.
Okay.
We all have those high intense periods, right? Where we need to get a project or done before it gets released, or we need to, we need to focus on something that needs to get put off the ground, especially when you start, with a business. And that's okay to have those periods. But when it becomes chronic, and how does it become chronic? You know that by certain symptoms in your health that you notice, right? We all know when we feel stress. We notice tension. Usually it's in our head, it's in our neck. That's mostly what people who have stress experience first, right? You have that physical tension, right? You start...
I would say in the chest as well.
Oh, in the chest, yeah. You start your digestive issues you have. Many people don't eat at all. Some people eat too much. Cravings go up as much for many people. I see that with all the chocolates in the office, then you tend to crave more unhealthy foods. Short-tempered, you see that in your emotions, in the way you behave, your body, you feel lack of energy. That's the question I asked at the beginning. That is definitely something you need to pay attention to, because that is your body giving you signs, saying, hello, something is out of balance, pay attention. And those signs start very slowly, but then they get bigger and bigger if we don't pay attention. You get sick again and again and again. You have your immune system, right? Gets very weak.
Okay.
All these can be signs. Stress is the curse, the root cause for almost any disease that's out there.
And then what would be the difference between good stress and bad stress? How do we identify it?
When you have good stress, if you want to frame it that way, you still find a balance afterwards. Right? When an animal is under danger, right? The reaction could either be it goes into fight mode, into flight, or it freezes, meaning like it hides somewhere, right? It fights the predator, or it just freezes. But then after a couple of seconds, the animal goes back into homeostasis, meaning goes back to the normal way of feeling, right? To the relaxed mode. So if you can manage to find that balance, like you just stressed in a short period of time, but you also find ways to relax, like it's not permanent, then it's okay to have stress, because it helps us, it releases dopamine, right? It releases adrenaline. Those are stress hormones. Those help us to get going, right? To get the energy. That's great. But if you cannot find ways to feel the opposite anymore, if you're constantly on an edge, feeling on the edge, like you feel constantly stressed and worried and on the go, and you don't find time to wind down, to relax, that is when you need to pay attention.
So the difference would be when you have it constantly. That's
right.
Bad stress. When you have it punctually, it's good stress.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's interesting, because you would feel the same way, but the difference is that you keep feeling it day after day.
As long as you can always find ways to recharge, that is important. And by the way, talking about stress, and I don't want to touch on it too deeply because it's a whole nother topic. That oftentimes the stress is something we have in our minds, like the constant worry, because oftentimes what we stress about is not even real, but it's a whole different story.
And it will never happen.
And the interesting thing is, Gonzalo, our body, our mind cannot distinguish between, is there real danger out there? Meaning are you really about to get hit by a car?
That's so bad.
Or is it because I worry so much about some potential negative outcome, or that investor that didn't get back to me and I'm sure he's going to turn me down again? Like the body cannot distinguish one or the other. So the reaction will always be the same.
Okay, so then the question is necessary. What do we do against this? How do we control it? Then when we know, if we can rationalize that, okay, I know I'm feeling that way, I know this is irrational, what do we do? Finding
ways to get out of our mind through the practices I mentioned earlier. by
journey.
taking a break, by going for a walk, by moving our body. Movement is a great way to release stress, which is known by so many people. In a mindfulness technique, yoga, meditation, journaling, all these things we talked about before, they help to either prevent that or release it or relieve it. That's the whole point of doing some of the parts of doing that. If I didn't do any of these practices, if no one did these practices, we'd like constantly be worried and stressed and run around like headless chicken all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Then that's why you mention, because I've seen that you focus in on two main things. The first one would be moving, and the second one would be reflecting. So, and it seems they're both in line with the stress as well, and with helping to cope with stress. I didn't think about it before, but now you said it. It was like, that's why she talks all the time about moving and about reflecting, because that helps you dealing with stress.
Yes, because it is a way to get from our mind into our body. That's why, some people say, that's why for some people it's easier to exercise than for others, because I know that when I exercise or running is my morning, my routine, or my go-to exercise, I get into my body, out of my mind. That's why this is so powerful.
Yeah.
It could be biking, it could be anything, right?
Yeah, as long as you move, right? As you said. Okay.
It could be bungee. It could be having what do you call those? Trampoline. Many people have trampolines at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dancing, whatever you want to do, any kind of movement.
Dancing. That's nice.
Dancing is a great way to release stress also,
Yeah. We passed the hour already, so we may need to be closing down a little bit the episode.
Right.
So we're missing resting, we're missing productivity, meditation, food. We didn't talk anything.
I know,
about
and I was
food.
thinking about that.
And I know it's one of your main things. Exercise, we talk a little bit. Burnout and depression, isolation. So Daniela, you may need to come another day to keep talking about this. At least we have the perfect journey now. We have the perfect journey.
Perfect day.
We will publish it as well in the comments below.
Please do, yeah.
Yeah, but before ending, I wanted to ask you a little bit of, if that makes sense, how would you then envision I don't know if you want to call it health or human beings' behavior, or how would you envision the future? That's it.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So to me personally, my big mission is that health is not a goal. It's not something we need to achieve. It's just a way of life. It's a lifestyle. Because I strongly believe that if we take good care of ourselves, not only our body, but also our mind and our soul, meaning our emotions, then we get to live in this amazing body for a very long time until we get very old. But if we don't do that, then we start having to renovate. Right? It's really a gift to have a healthy body, and health is not everything, but without health, everything is nothing.
Yeah.
And so let's not wait to get sick. Let's prevent. Let's live an active, a healthy lifestyle where prioritizing your own health and well-being is just as natural as eating and drinking. I want this to be just part of life. Nothing we need to argue about, nothing we need to find weird, just especially the mental health. It's these days, it's more due to the pandemic, it's gotten more popularity. I mean, it's more accepted in society, I feel, but still, there's so much more there's so much more work to be done. And yeah, just taking care of, just to say, hey, I'm going to bed early tonight because I value my sleep. It's great, amazing. You don't have to have you can just value sleep. If you know tomorrow you have an important day, then get that rest you need. So, and I'm hoping that we will change society more towards prevention rather than cure, because that's what our system is kind of laid out right now.
Yeah, prevention. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Is there anything else that you feel that you're missing beyond what I mentioned before that you want to say before the closing?
Just a final thought that if you really, I think like so many of us are not tapping into the fullest potential. we don't really feel alive. We don't really feel like we have the amazing energy that we need. If you start incorporating any of these practices that we've shared today, it can be just one. Just use the one that you feel most drawn to or that relates most to you, and apply that to your day on a consistent basis. You can make changes and transformation beyond anything you could ever imagine. I swear to you, this stuff works. So that would be my main message. Prioritize your own health, honestly.
If I would say, I've done that in the previous episode as well. If anyone listens right now, because this is the end of the episode, so maybe some people, that the audience retention goes down, right? So if you're here and you're listening, you can just drop a comment or a emoji about what health means to you, let's say. That could be interesting to read also.
Yes, please do that. Yeah, share with us, what does health mean to you exactly?
Yeah.
And how do you stay mentally, especially mentally and physically healthy?
Perfect. That's it. Then thanks a lot again, Dani. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Gonzalo. Thank you for everyone listening. Wish you all the best. And I hope to talk to you again very soon.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.